Welcome back to WRMN Out to Lunch. My name is Dennis Sonar Green. You are spending the second hour with me. I hope you spend the whole hour with me. I got a lot of great things, great topics to talk to you about. A lot of great people, a lot of great voices. That's what Out to Lunch with WRMN is all about. WRMN 1410, by the way, WRMN1410.com if you want to listen on there. If you want to watch us on the live stream, that's right, we are live streaming video. That's right, radio you can watch. It's just like television you can smell, but I guess radio you can watch, I think, is a little bit more pleasant. Speaking of pleasance, I have my pleasure to have once again my friend Johnny Z. Thank you very much for coming in, sir. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, great to be here.
And like always, you brought me some friends. One of those friends is David Debo. David is the City of Aurora's Executive Director to the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. David, does that fit on a business card?
Not really. Two sides.
Two sides. That's it. So, so you sound like a man with a plan. What do you have in store for the economic development of the city of Aurora?
Well, I'm fortunate to be part of a great team in Aurora because think about economic development. Think about we all do it every day, right? We drive down the street and we see an empty building and we say, boy, that should be a deli. That should be this. So we're all thinking all the time about how to maximize or improve, enhance. That's really what economic development is
Gotcha.
Improving the prosperity of the businesses and the people who live.
Making sure there's not two coffee shops right next to each other.
Try not to be, although, the other side of it is that capitalism, So,
Fair
for
enough.
instance, in Aurora, we have a bunch of coffee shops, and they all kind of hit a different market.
Yeah.
And some has some food, and some and actually attract different crowds. But
Okay.
that's what we do. We try to just move things along and believe in the capitalist process. But at the end of the day, sometimes it needs a little nudge, and that's what we do.
Is there a certain threshold of occupancy that you're looking for businesses in the city?
It's not so much occupancy.
Okay.
It's really, without getting too deep, although it is fascinating.
Well, this is radio. You can get as deep as you want.
So you think about this. You've got the value of something, right? So the value of a building, for instance, is predicated on the rents that are attainable. So if the market is strong and the rents are high, then that's going to be seen in the value. On the other side of the equation is the cost. How much does it cost either to buy that building or to renovate that building? And there's got to be some balance between the value and the cost. So for instance, and we've had this in Aurora, where the cost to renovate that building is higher than the ultimate value of that building.
Okay.
Then you say, well, that's why that building was vacant for 30 years.
Gotcha.
Because there was no economic rationale
You're buying that building to lose money.
to lose money. And again, people tend to do things in a rational way. So unless something like an economic development group, like our group, will come in and say, no, wait, here's the math of this thing. It's not going to work unless this happens, but
Gotcha.
for something like that happens.
What are some of the tools in your toolbox to assist in that move, that nudge, right? Do you have cattle prods? Do you have carrots? Is it more carrot or less stick? What is your what's your approach, and what tools do you have?
Well, the main, you could use zoning and rezonings and things like that, but if you want to make a quicker impact, it's dollars.
Okay.
And incentives. And incentives are kind of a charged word because you could say, the person got an incentive. City's given money. But really, you look at what gets us excited is somebody comes in and says, I got this idea. I got this business. I got this restaurant. I got this business. But I'm short some money because, again, it's just, if I put $300,000 into this building, and at the end of the day, it's only worth $200,000. I can't do that. So we might offer some tax incentives, and we might offer a grant, or we might offer a loan that might get paid back because you're now generating sales taxes that you wouldn't in a vacant building. So we go to the city council and say, you know something, if you do this and the sales tax go to this, then you're actually going to pay yourself back and then some. And that's the kind of thing. So you try to create a win-win outcome. That's the goal.
And it's balancing that ecosystem too. We kind of hit on it by talking about the coffee shops being too close to each other. But at the end of the day, you want to have a reason to go to these shops. So having a place like maybe a movie theater where it's a destination, and then you get out of the movie and you go and assimilate to something else or move from there. How much is what you guys do at the economic development level of balancing that ecosystem versus somebody necessarily kind of seeing the tea leaves in the market? Wouldn't it be better to put something in here? How much do you guys have, like, this is a developer we talk to often, and let's see if they might have an idea for this side, or do you kind of let it organically come up from there?
It's really a great question, because we think about that every day, is how much are you're the city, you're the backdrop. There's developers and there's the restaurateurs and
you're
retailers.
The finger on the scale,
right?
At that
point. You want the market to work. So the short answer is it's much better when the market is working, because we'll figure it out. And if a restaurant opens and it's the wrong restaurant and they don't have the business, they'll go out of business and another restaurant will come in, or something else will come in. That said, if people want to live downtown and they want a grocery store, we may say, what do we need to do to get that? So we're looking at that right now. What are the economics? Because more people in Aurora want to live downtown. And of course, that requires grocery stores. How do you do that? So sometimes we'll target a market and say, we really will help this business because we really have those 3 coffee shops. So really, does it make sense to give an incentive to that 4th coffee shop, or wouldn't it be better to try to do it this other way? So we're constantly speaking to our merchants, our residents, and trying to figure out and doing some market studies as to what to do.
That's great. And when you go and you talk about the communication between both the market, the constituents, the business owners, what is your main vehicle of communication? Do you have people come into your office? Do you just say, email me at any time? What is your usual communication pathway?
Well, and I think John will talk about that a little further on the program, but and we were talking about this on the drive up. We're very personal. We like to talk to people in person. The door is always open because you never know what you learn when somebody comes in and has an idea. And then we could share. So we might, if we're going to lend money or incentivize a business, we're going to know about that business. We're going to know their revenues, their costs, and so on. So without breaching confidentiality, we could go and say, something, that's a good idea, but we know this, or in order to make the numbers work, we need at least this kind of revenue and stuff like that. We also have the Paramount Theater right downtown, so we are very familiar with when their shows are going to be, how their season works, and so on. So we might say to a restaurant, it'd be great to be opening in September or really August, because that's when the season starts, versus, let's say, in January, which is notoriously a slower time.
Absolutely. That's great. And you have a fantastic team behind you. Of course, communications director and a few other people that you've got. But how is it working with the other organizations that aren't necessarily under your control as the city? Like maybe there's a chamber of commerce, or maybe there is a investors group or an entrepreneur club. Are there pathways and representatives that you send out to those groups as well, or how do you maintain that line of communication?
Seriously, that is another very astute question, because it's exactly what we're going through right now. And I think it really starts at the top, and the mayor and the chief of staff really encourage this kind of cross-pollination. So we come from the private sector. I come from the private sector. And if you're in the private sector and you're in a big company, you know that your finance group has to be talking to your marketing group. You're just part of what you do. So the idea that you're in a municipality and you happen to have a public-private group or a chamber or economic development, we have a downtown group, and our mission is really to make sure that everybody is communicating. And it sounds corny, but when you have a market like this where there's so much to do, so it's not a zero-sum game. I could see in some worlds where it's like, oh, that's what I do. I work on this street, but there's so much to do. And quite frankly, sometimes the city is involved in the funding of these different groups. So if you're a taxpayer or you're a resident or a pedestrian and you're walking down the street, you don't know whether that deal was done because the chamber introduced someone to that person and so on. You just want to know that this is a great place to get a burger.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we think. And I think, so I'm obsessed about working with John's group in the marketing and in the communications and making sure, just the other day I was speaking to somebody in his group and making sure that they were connecting with the downtown people because we have an event coming up and we wanted to make sure that everybody not only knew about it, because John's group is great at making sure that that happens, but was participating. So even though the event starts really in October, and John could talk about that, it's a light show that we're going to have all over the city for about 5 weeks. But we want to make sure that everybody is participating. And to do that, you've got to be speaking to everybody. And to me, it just energizes me because somebody says, I got this idea. I was downtown. I was in Chicago, and I saw this and whatever. And that makes it exciting. So we love it.
Communication and compromise, they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand when you're building a city. They go hand in hand when you're building relationships or anything that's like that.
We're making a deal.
That's it.
And making a deal, and you've got to... I've always felt, kind of just to diverge a little bit, but I've always felt in a deal, there's a natural moment. There's a point. There's an inflection point. And I've been fortunate in my life to see that very early on.
The symbiosis that just happens.
You just see where, and it's not 50-50. But you could just see where it is. And then part of my job is moving the parties and the city, and sometimes the city council, into that.
Where do they fit together? We'll be right back on Out to Lunch. Thanks for listening to WRMN. We are joined by Debo, Mr. Debo, and of course, we've also got our friend Johnny Z talking about Aurora. We'll be right back after these.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not...
tbfirm.com or give them a call at 630-526-4242.
Welcome back to Out to Lunch. You're listening to WRMN. Hopefully you're watching WRMN too. That's right, YouTube. Or you can come right down to Studio 14, stand outside, look at us, wave at us. Please don't tap on the glass. We're a little skittish in here. But come and see us. Come see downtown Elgin. But I have heard there's another place to go see, another downtown to go see. And that would be the downtown city of Aurora. Lots and lots of development that's happening down there. Of course, we've got our friend Johnny Z, the communications director of the city of Aurora. But he's brought me a special guest, the city of Aurora's executive director of the mayor's office in economic development, David Debo. I don't think I could ever memorize that position. I would be making it up every single time, mixing it around. Yeah, I'm the mayor's liaison for the economic for visions and going. But it's great. How did you jump from being in the private sector of real estate and jump to come work for a mayor of Aurora?
Another very astute question. What I did in the private sector, I used to, I'm a real estate person. So I used to buy property for a large Wall Street kind of company.
Okay.
Travel around the country, be part of a team that would buy a hotel, buy a group of hotels. I think at one point we bought 26 Holiday Inns at one point, that kind of stuff. So I was trained in that milieu.
Good word, by the way.
I was trying to use it. I got a chance. Thank you. But when I started to look at really what I did was I was problem solving. I was trying to figure out how to make things better. And what drove me was less the pure how much money I was making. And in Wall Street, that is very important. You really got to want to make more and do more and bigger. And having bigger and better was not necessarily the thing that drove me. What drove me was to say, hey, what can that be? What could that building be? What could that business be? And be some way part of a team that made it better.
Gotcha.
And I was helping some lenders out after the crash of 2008. I was helping a lender out. A friend of mine owned a bank and asked me to come in and help him fix some of the bad loans, because we all remember that time. And in doing that, I met people in Aurora. I was working on some projects in Aurora and looked around and said, this is an incredible city. And we were just talking about it at the break, authentic city, with real people, real buildings, real issues, real urban issues, and in the downtown, and incredible potential. So the opportunity to be part of that, to be part of this transformation, to be part of this mayor's group with the mayor, really having a vision and helping him execute that vision, that's what I wanted to do. So I was excited about it.
That's really great. What I like about the way that you talk about economic development is you don't talk about economic development from a I don't want to be mean to the other ones that are out there, but you don't take it from a capitalistic mentality. If anything, you seem to take economic development from a scientific approach of this is a living, breathing organism. And if we push too much on one side, or if we just feed it sugar all day and just pump enormous amounts of dollars that we don't know what we're doing, we're just throwing it in there, it'll become bloated. Or if we don't give it the nutrition that it wants, it will become anemic. And now we're not using it at all. Or if we're not exercising and flowing as well, that from what I've heard from what John has said, that it's the flow, it's the communication and everything. What I really like about how you describe the city of Aurora is you describe the city and the economic development as if it is in your stewardship, mostly as an organism versus a numbers on a spreadsheet.
Oh yeah.
It's more about, should a hamburger hot dog place be together and shake hands and do it? Should I have? How do we reduce food deserts as they just spring up? Nobody plans a food desert. Nobody turns around and says, "Well, all of a sudden we don't have any food in this area." But you coming in with your mentality and your team, you guys, before the development even happens, you've already got that plan there to say, no, for every certain range we go, or if we do expand this direction, this is where we need to make sure that there is something here in this area.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming in from that aspect of it. Just me as a regular citizen, and as some of my friends say, to enhance the citizen experience for my side of it. Did you learn that from working with the city, or did you see that in the private sector and then said this will work really well in a city aspect?
Well, I've always respected people that were essentially taking the risk. So whether it was the investors or, in this case, the taxpayers, right? So who am I? Really, who am I? I'm a fiduciary for the taxpayer, right? And the best way I learned to think that way was when I was in the private sector. So to answer that part of the question, so let's say I was part of a team and we were buying a $100 million portfolio of hotels. Well, I'm 32 years old, and $100 million. Like, what does that feel like? What does that mean? So I would try to personalize it and say, okay, well, I can't relate to $100 million, and I have a hard time relating to $1 million, but I maybe I could relate to $10,000 or $50,000. And I would say, would I put my money, and I would literally go through an exercise, a genuine exercise, when I was alone, and say, would I, if I had to make this decision, would I put my money in this deal? And that's what I do. I still do that now. So how would I translate to the private sector? So I'm thinking, if the taxpayer money, would I put $800,000 into this building? Would I do that? So, and it actually helps me internalize it, and then it helps me negotiate it. Because then when I'm on the other side and somebody says, no, it's too expensive, and the developer, I might say, I'd like to help you, but I just can't because I can't justify it. And it's real because I've put it through that funnel.
Exactly. You've already ran the lemonade stand numbers, so you know what's profitable and what's not. So nobody can just turn around and say, well, I'm not going to make any money with this unless the city gives me $100,000 right now.
When somebody comes in, it's interesting. It's not all the time, but it's a tip-off for me. If somebody picks up the phone and says, Mr. Debo, what's your incentive program? I almost feel like hanging up. Because, wait, you want to open up that business? You want to do something? Let's talk about that. And then if you're short, we talk to the council about a gap, that gap between the cost and the value. If there's a gap, we could try to figure out how to figure that out.
But it's not just give me money right now. I want to open a business. What do you think you are, Amazon? Get out of here.
and everybody wants it. And I will say, it's like anything. Look, it's an art and a science. You have to make a judgment, and you're going to be wrong sometimes. And we talk in front of the city council, and we talk about risk and balancing the risk reward. Because if not, you can't just look at numbers on a spreadsheet and say, this will happen. You could say, this is likely, this is what we want, this is something empirical as to why we think it will. But it's an art as well, and you've got to let people know that.
Absolutely. Spoken like a true scientist. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
What are your plans for downtown? Broadway properties are going to be renovated. You guys have some redevelopment plans that are coming through. Tell me about your excitement.
Sure. So over the years, and it predated the 6 or so years that I've been in Aurora, the city has acquired property for whatever reason. Maybe there was a tax sale. Maybe there was this. For whatever reasons, myself have purchased property on behalf of the city. But they tend to be strategic properties right on the main street on Route 25, which is Broadway. And we finally decided to go out there and put them on the market.
Okay.
And to do that, we put a package together. And again, working very closely with John's group, who did an excellent job graphically and actually conceptualizing what we wanted to do. So we're basically saying to the public, whether you're an architect, whether you're a developer, whether you're a retailer, what do you think? What would you do? Forget the price right now. Forget this. What would you do with these properties? Would you knock these 3 buildings down and build an apartment building? Would you do this? What would you do that? And we actually showed some depictions of what could be. Thinking about it, let's visualize this street. Let's try to keep some of the historic nature of this street, but let's not be handcuffed by everything in the past. And what's that balance?
What makes this portion of Aurora so special? What are the other things that are around that area?
Well, it's very close to this Paramount Theater. The Paramount Theater is the largest subscription-based theater in the country, a major economic driver. Beautiful. The shows, please, I advise everybody listening to see the show Beautiful, which just opened up, to rave reviews as they constantly have over there. But it's very close to that. Great City Hall, the river, it's right next to everything. The great thing about Aurora, the downtown, is it's not that big. It's really has boundaries between 31 and 25 and between maybe 6 or 7 streets. So you really have what I call in the real estate business a barrier to entry. So this little pocket of area has a lot of potential. It's close to the train station. So it's right there and it's underutilized. We own it and it's vacant. So let's get out to the market. Let's energize it. already we have restaurants and everybody interested in doing it.
Gotcha. And you've got space for multiple purposes too, because I mean the way that I think it sits is you've got a few different levels for that area as well. And you guys are not only targeting retail and restaurants, but you're also hitting that other R of residential. And is there anything specific that you're looking for there? Are you looking at more of an upscale residential? Are you looking at more of a medium income housing? Is this more of single flats so that we can get more younger people in? What are you guys looking as far as that side?
Well, it's interesting because we could do a show, and maybe I'd love to do a show with you about the economics of residential construction.
Let's do it.
Because, it's frightening. I mean, I'm going to give you an example. I was reading an article in Cranes a couple of months ago where this developer said, to deliver an affordable housing unit, now they use these tax credits and so on, costs $700,000 per unit.
Ooh.
A market unit is less than half of that.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to deliver housing right now in this country, period.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the cost, it's almost by definition, it's more upscale because you can't justify, even with some incentives, it's
The return.
hard to do that.
Yeah. And is that that's more of a federal side than it is necessarily the state of Illinois or anything that's working on that side?
Yes, how that's said, but IDA is the state organization that kind of implements a lot of the HUD policies and so on. So we work with the state. So we do a lot of affordable housing. So we just took 2 schools that were vacant. We bought them and put them on the market, used some federal funds for affordable housing.
Wow.
Because we want this city, this is an urban oasis, and we want everybody there. It's an incredibly diverse, vibrant city. So you want people at this income level and this, you just want it all. So we'll see what the market comes back at. And that's why we wanted to put it out there with some directions, some ideas, but then sit back and say, something, what do you think?
Let them decide. It's back
What do you
to
think?
It's back to the scales are automatically going to do whatever they need to do as much of the laissez-faire as we possibly can get to. I mean, I know there's regulations and whatever else, but capitalism will be capitalism regardless. So let that kind of decide the area. And then what I really like about where you come in with it is well, hold on a second. Here's a guardrail over here. We want to make sure that we don't get anything too crazy. Oh, well, hold on a second. We want to maintain the value of this area. We can't just put in a bunch of closets with bathrooms in it. We want to actually make sure that we keep it into that scale aspect of it.
Yeah. So for instance, it's very interesting. A developer came to us the other day. In fact, we're meeting with the mayor tomorrow about it. And it's the old Galena Hotel. So there's this old historic hotel, and it's just incredible. But it's small, and it's just economically just hard to make the numbers work. So we're going to let micro units happen there, which is unusual. So we're going to have to change some zoning in order to enable that. So you could argue in the old day, they called them SROs, single room occupancy.
Okay.
So sometimes cities are saying, I don't want to do a lot more of that stuff. I'd rather have, people with a little more means and so on. But at the end of the day, it's so expensive now to live that we're saying, these units might be not a lot larger than a hotel room, but how do you make that economics work? So we're trying to look at that, figure out. So for instance, a lot of times we don't want to have residential on the ground floor. To make the math work, we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
So we're trying, and even so, the developer's coming to us and saying, look, I've got a gap, and we're trying to figure out how could we fill the gap. But the goal would be to have younger people come in and mix, and then some retired people come in, and just affordable, and just a blend of people, which is what an urban city, and that's what it should be.
And you use the great word for it, affordable. An affordable city is one that drives its own engine. If you can have an affordable, because honestly, what is an economy other than a dollar moving from my pocket to yours? That's really all it is. But if we all turn around and say, well, why don't I just keep my dollars, you keep your dollars, and we'll all just go home at the end of the day, we don't have anything. We're not driving an economy. There is no flow. There is nothing that's moving through. So to have more of those people that are involved with it, especially the retail side of it, the restaurant side of it, you guys are talking about the Paramount being down there as well. You guys may have another little burb on your hands with this, another little hot pocket in Aurora.
Well, to me, look, people love an urban environment. Whether it's New York or Chicago or, people love an urban environment. That said, you don't necessarily have to live in the middle of New York City to experience that. So
It's true.
how could you experience that same vibrancy, excitement that you get in an urban environment, but then be able to walk down the river and, 5 minutes away be on a nature trail and so on. So that's where I think Aurora's got this incredible opportunity. You have a train that will take you into Chicago in 50 minutes. You've got an airport. You've got all this potential. And I just feel this awesome responsibility to be part of a process that could help navigate it. And you just don't want to blow it. You just don't want to, because you've got a stewardship that you could help for, and you want to do it right.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely hit some great words there. Stewardship is absolutely what I would call you. I'm gonna talk to the mayor a little bit about it, and the City of Aurora Executive Director of Mayor Office of Economic Development. I think you should just be the steward of economic development and be done with it. Be done with it, David. It's too wordy. It's too wordy. Tell them you're losing money on the ink on the business cards. It's just taking too much. I really appreciate you.
Thank
you
Dennis,
letting us
thank
look
you.
at this.
Totally enjoyed it.
No, absolutely. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the City of Aurora's new program. That would be Your Voice. What we just talked about with Mr. Debo has kind of started a little bit about that. Of course, we've got Johnny Z coming in for the communications part of the City of Aurora. That's right, communications manager for the City of Aurora. Much easier to say. That would be Johnny Zagul, I believe. Johnny Z. I always mess it up every single time. But we're going to finish the rest of the hour. If you've got any questions, don't forget you can always jump in on the line. 847-931-1410. We'll be right back after these. Welcome back to Out to Lunch with WRMN. My name is Dennis Sonar Green. I'll go ahead and turn on my cameras for you so you can see what cameras on the radio. Preposterous. No, go ahead. YouTube, right there, WRMN. You can see us. We're right here. I've got a few cameras in here. Eventually, we'll get a couple cameras for the street shot. I don't know if my Aurora friends know or not, but the river cam that we use for our YouTube side of it, because Elgin does not have a river cam, I use the City of Aurora's river cam right here. So when we go streaming and we go to the river cam, I'll go ahead and hit it over there right there. Yep, sure enough, I've got the river cam kicking over, and that is there. Elgin, what's up? I'm trying to get an Elgin river cam put together. But my friends over at Aurora, including Johnny Z and also David Debo, who is my new economic best friend, we just got done talking about the RFQ, the request for qualifications for the downtown Broadway properties of there. Now, you can go to aurora-il.org/Broadway RFQ to find more information about that. You can find the addresses for all of the different properties on Broadway, the square foot totalage, all of the different things that are out there to know about it. But the communications manager told me there's even more ways to reach out. So you thought WRMN had 5 or 6 different ways to get a hold of you. Wait till you hear what the City of Aurora has in store for you. Thank you, sir, for being here with me once again.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yeah, got some pretty big news. It came out about a couple of weeks ago, but so far we're doing our best to manage it and really inform the public more about it. So we appreciate you having us. Your Voice Aurora.
Hey.
Your Voice Aurora. Yeah, let's get some sound effects in there. It's a very exciting new online engagement platform that the city has launched. It's actually part one of our website redevelopment project. The goal by mid-2025 is to have a brand new state-of-the-art website at the city through our partners at Granicus. They are really the government leader in website build-out, website production, things of that nature.
Okay.
We've had a really good experience with them so far, and this is phase one. So Your Voice, what is it? yourvoice.aurora.il.us. And basically what you can do here, any resident or even non-resident, if they would like to, they could sign up for an account. It's free to sign up. All you need is an email and a password. And you can actually interact with projects that are ongoing in the city. So, for example, Broadway RFQ, we spent some time talking about it. So there's an idea space on the website where residents can sign up, comment their screen name, or use their screen name that they have, and comment ideas about what they would want to see there. So we have some people commenting, hey, I'd like to see a sports bar or conference center, maybe an Apple store, casual restaurant. These are all ideas for
Bowling
residents.
alley, right?
Bowling alley.
Maybe I
Right?
might sign up.
It's free. You can. So it's really cool. And then the site's each page in and of itself, we add some pictures. We've added, PDFs and graphics to look at certain things. The Broadway RFQ one's really popular. And then I had mentioned to you off air, the Phillips Park Master Plan Golf Course one is extremely popular. It's the only one on the website right now that has a survey component. So we've sent out the survey. The Phillips Park staff, they've done a really good job. Jeff Schmidt, he's our golf course manager. He's done a good job at sending it out to Phillips Park subscribers and frequent players. And they've all filled out this survey. So what do you like about Phillips Park? What do you want to see there? Things of that nature. Over 60% of the respondents have actually been positive per Granicus.
Really?
In terms of language and in terms of how people have interacted with it. So it's been a really good positivity rate. But there are certainly improvements that people want. People have talked about maybe disc golf courses being added. They've talked about adding maybe a mini golf course or adding better amenities inside the pro shop. All of those things are important. And all of those things are things that the golf course may decide to do down the road.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get that resident feedback, to get it directly versus our old website currently, it serves its function, but we understand and we know that we need to get something new up and running. And this engagement site, I mean, it's been a hit so far. A lot of people love interacting with it. And that's been exciting from our perspective, from communications and marketing's perspective, because we get to interact with these residents and learn more about our residents and what they really want the city to do.
That's great, because it's back to that communication side of it. We can't have compromise if I'm not communicating what I want. By all means, I can complain. That's plenty of people who like to do that, complaining. But communication is a little bit different than just like, I don't like this thing. It is well, what would you rather see? There's a lot of that. I get a lot of, even in my business, I'm sure a lot of people do as well, make me a sandwich. Okay, what type of sandwich? Nope, make me a sandwich, thank you. I'll be back on Friday to pick up that sandwich. Do you want it toasted? Do you want it peanut butter and jelly? Like, how am I? There's many, many sandwiches out there. I can't tailor it to you if I don't know the information behind it. And you saying, well, I don't like it. Well, okay. Well, I guess I'll just make you another sandwich. How is this sandwich? Well, I don't like it. Communicate a little bit. Let's get some details in there. How does your voice help me as a citizen not just complain? That seems to be what a lot of communication avenues are just an avenue to complain. How is this more of a interaction back and forth instead of me just dropping a note in a suggestion box somewhere?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And what makes this different than our current website or even other city websites in general is the fact that we get emails when it comes to people commenting, people leaving an idea, people taking a survey. We can respond to those people. If they have a good idea, we can say, hey, we've received it. Let's have a further discussion. That's part of it. But also, all of these projects have those different widgets, if you will. So there's those idea spaces on some of the projects. There are surveys on some of the projects. We also have a graphic on the upper right-hand corner of each project that shows you name and contact information for who is running that project, who is facilitating it. So for the Garfield Park, or for the Phillips Park and the Garfield Park renovation projects, we have our director of, or superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Gio Santana. His information's there. You got a question? Hey, email Gio directly.
That's amazing.
It's not difficult now for people to figure out, okay, who's doing what, who's the right person I need to talk to, because that's been a complaint that we fielded before on our current website, right? So we're trying to find a way to make it easier for the public to interact with the people who represent them, and at the same time have that transparency aspect, so they know, okay, I know this person. There's a picture there, right? There's a face. I know this person's working on this project. If I have a question or suggestion, I can reach out. But nevertheless, it's not a faceless person or a faceless entity.
Gotcha.
I know who this is, and if I have any questions at all, I could reach out to him or her.
It's the to whom it may concern paradox, right?
Right.
So if I get that email and say, well, to whom it may concern, well, it doesn't concern me. Crumple, crumple, throw in trash. It's the same, or the basket suggestion box, right? I'll file it in my circular file that just happens to have a plastic bag in the middle of it. Don't feel that I'm putting you aside. Or the over mountain of mail that you guys would get if it was only one hose, right? If it was only one place that everything was coming into. What it seems like that this yourvoice.aurora.il.us, if you want to try it out there, what it seems like is it's more of a targeted type of thing. Nowadays, when I call a business, I get the automation or I get somebody, and then they tell me where to go. If I just stay on hold until somebody answers, then it's back to the who it may concern. Oh, no, you need this department. Oh, well, why did somebody send you over here? We need to send you over here. So my willingness to communicate may start to dwindle as my frustration of trying to get to the person to communicate. And then by the time I've jumped through all of these hoops, then it is, okay, well, now it's time for me to complain. First off, of how long it took me to get to you. Secondly, my actual complaint. Or maybe I forgot about what it was by the time it gets there. What you're saying is your voice is more about a open dialogue between the person who is in charge of that specific thing and you who have a specific issue about that. I don't need to be complaining about dog catchers just to everybody. I need to go to the actual animal control side and say, hey, this is what happened.
I couldn't agree more. And the problem that you described is what we're trying to eliminate with this site, and then with the new website in general. This is phase one of it. We're trying to let people know that, no, you don't have to be on hold, or no, if you can't reach somebody, that's okay. Why don't you go to the website, and there is a person. There are 3 people, in fact, on pretty much every project that we have listed.
Wow.
And this site is an engagement site specifically regarding ongoing projects in the city. So whether it comes to construction and engineering related things, economic development sorts of things, parks and recreation, the golf course, all of these things that are ongoing that may need public feedback, right? That may talk about a public information meeting coming up, that may have diagrams or boards from past meetings. That way the public could always access them in case they couldn't make the meeting. All of these things are trying to amplify the public's voice and give them a true voice. That's why it's called Your Voice. It's your voice, and it's your ability to reach everybody easier and to have the opportunity to interact with everybody at City Hall.
There it is, yourvoice.aurora.il.us. That's your, Y-O-U-R, voice, V-O-I-C-E, .aurora, A-U-R-O-R-A.il.us. Those are the places to go. Those are the things to check out. I really appreciate the two of you coming in today. It was a blast having such a great intellectual conversation and hearing about the future of the city of Aurora. Thanks for coming in. If there's anything else, you guys are welcome in anytime.
Thank you.
We'll be back. We'll be back.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's it. The communications director, Johnny Z, was here for us as well. We also made a new economic friend today. That would be David Debo, and that is the City of Aurora's executive director of the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, the CAEDMOED. David Debo. Really appreciate you guys both being on today. This has been Out to Lunch, WRMN. Continue for more for the radio shopping side, WRMN1410.com, or listen to Deals, the Drive Time Deals with Matt McNeil starting at 3 o'clock. We'll see you tomorrow.
Do you